Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Media. I am Dr. Nik Nikam, and the focus of presentation today is how to burn more body fat. All of us want to get rid of that belly fat or the hip fat. Wherever it is located, we want to get rid of it. First of all, I'm going to give you a fundamental understanding of how fat builds up in the body and what can mobilize that fat deposits in our belly, in the hips, or wherever it might be by a few simple techniques. So let us begin with the feature presentation. As I said, the topic is how to burn more body fat. Because the purpose of doing exercise is to lose weight. You don't want to lose your muscle weight. You want to keep your muscles strong. You want to keep your brain active. You want to keep yourself mobile, but you want to lose that belly fat. As you can see, I don't know if you can see. See, I was like 186 pounds, and in a matter of 2 months, I brought it down to like 171 pounds. I hope that will impress you. And I'm going to show you how to get rid of these love handles and all this big pot belly by using simple techniques. You have to understand the human physiology. I'm a cardiologist. I dealt with exercise issues for almost 40 years, and I can shed some light upon how it is the basis behind body fat accumulation. Okay, let's look at some basic fundamentals of proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and water, which make up of our body composition. If you look at our body composition consists of 45% muscle and 3% essential fatty acids. We need all these essential fatty acids to build tissues, to form walls, cell walls, to provide cholesterol and a lot of important things. But all that belly fat you have is like a deposit of junk. It's a junkyard. It keeps accumulating, and that's what you need to. You need to like attic cleaning. You need to just go there and start cleaning it up, and I'll tell you how to do it. And look at this: bone 15% and other organs 25%. But let's look at a little deeper. If you look at our body composition from a chemical point of view, this is the most important chart I wanted to focus upon, because this is where the crux of how to burn more body fat. As you can see, 62% of our body is water, 16% is protein, 16 to 20 or 25% is body fat. The bigger the belly you have, the bigger the hips you have, the fat content is going to be more like 20-25%, because your bone density cannot be higher just because you have more fat. Your muscles cannot be weighing more because you have fat. So when you start accumulating fat, actually your other weights go down, whereas your fat weight increases. And look at this number, 1% carbohydrates. If you're like 200 pounds, that is telling you the maximum amount of carbohydrates you have in your body is like 2 pounds. Actually, the body stores only like 400 to 700 grams of glucose as glycogen, most of it in the muscles for energy, immediate energy, and in the liver for all the metabolism where it needs energy. Glucose produces energy molecules that make things happen, make the engines move, make the blood vessels move, make the heart beat, and things like that. How does a body that can only hold like 2 pounds of sugar can hold 50 to 100 pounds of fat? Well, the answer is simple. I'll show you in the next slide. First of all, let's talk about how the energy is produced and how the energy is used and what happens to the energy that is not used. Let's say you go out on a buffet and you pig out on 5,000 calories. And let's say that 4,000 calories of that is carbohydrates. Okay, The body can break down the protein, and whatever the protein it needs, it utilizes it. The rest of it is converted into fat. Same thing with carbohydrates. As I said, your body can only hold maybe 1 to 2 pounds of fat, sugar. If your body already has 1,000 grams of glycogen, it cannot store more glycogen because there's no space to store the glycogen. So what does the body do? The body breaks down the carbohydrates into smaller molecules. It goes through the Krebs cycle, and there it is converted into triglycerides. Triglycerides become the excess fat. And now the body has the license to store unlimited quantity of these triglycerides. This is where the first problem begins. That is, the more carbohydrates you load, the more fat you're going to accumulate, because that is the law of science, where excess carbohydrate is going to be converted into fatty acids and triglycerides and cholesterol. All right? What about fats? Fats also go through the metabolism just like glucose does, and they all produce what is known as the ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is like the currency. It's like a dollar bill. You have this energy, you can go and buy something. You have this energy, you can run engines. You have this energy, you can fly planes. And you can move body, you can move muscles, you can eat, you can think, you can act. So those are all the things which the energy helps. And look at the other bad thing about this. When you eat protein, you get 4 calories. Whereas if you eat carbohydrates, you get 4 calories. And when you eat fat, you get 9 calories. And all the energy that is produced, taken in the form of carbohydrates and fat, are going to be converted into fat in the body. Anything that the body cannot store as carbohydrates. I told you, we have a limit of how much carbohydrates we can store. And you think about that, eating like that day after day after day for 20, 30 years. No wonder you're weighing 350 pounds. It's not your fault. It's just you haven't been educated as to what is building up this fat. And same thing with diabetes. When people have diabetes, what do? They take insulin. What does insulin do? Insulin moves glucose into the cells, which is going to be converted into fat, because the body doesn't need too much glucose. Any glucose the body doesn't need is going to be either excreted through the kidneys or converted into fat. That's why people with diabetes, they gain weight when they start taking these insulin and other medications that increase the metabolism of glucose. Okay, one of the things that we need to focus upon is cutting down our carbohydrates. So there are 2 main steps towards burning more body fat. And I'm going to show you by real examples. And something is already doing that in your own body. You're not even aware of it. Okay, let's talk about, first of all, how many calories are we consuming to begin with? The daily recommended calories is like 2,500 to 3,000 calories, which I think is ludicrous, especially if you're a computer geek like me sitting here and just talking. You don't need 2,500 calories. You can survive a normal life in an adult age with 1,200 calories. 1,200 calories is the one which prevents you from breaking your muscles for energy source. But if you cut your calorie intake to 1,200 calories, and that's the first step, you're already reducing your carbohydrate intake and your fat intake. As a result, you're cutting down excess junk going into your body system. That's step number 1. And let's look at this. Here's 2,650 calories. Keep that in mind. Now, I already talked about what's going to happen to all this extra food, 2,650 calories. It's more than 50% of it is coming from carbohydrates. It's all going to be converted into fat. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's going to be converted into fat. So let's look at it here. 50-60% in our diet is the calories are coming from carbohydrates. That's insane, and that's insane to recommend that kind of diet to a diabetic patient. A diabetic patient cannot handle glucose. Why the hell are we pushing 50-60% of the calories through glucose? Because you know you can't mobilize glucose. Then you give injections like insulin or pills, which is going to increase this glucose absorption, leading to more fat deposition. All right, fat calories 30% and proteins, which is okay. What I would like to focus is, let's cut the number of calories to begin with. And once we reduce the calories, we don't have to burn that amount of energy to get rid of whatever that was stored as fat. Okay, I want to take you to a more practical example of how animals and organs that burn fat can sustain for a very long period. Take, for example, an eagle flying at 30,000 feet, exploring the terrain, flying for hours. How can a bird like eagle fly for hours? What kind of energy does it use? You think it's glucose? No. If you're running for a 100-meter dash, yes, you need glucose, the glycogen and the glucose energy to do it. But if you're running for 24 hours, your glycogen will be gone in no time. If you're burning 400 calories, then your glycogen will be gone in like 4 to 5 hours. So your body is totally depleted of your carbohydrates if you fast for 2 days. Think about the human heart. It beats for like 90 to 100 years. You think it can depend on glucose to beat? No, actually the human heart uses fatty acids. Because fatty acids, you have limitless supply of fatty acids. The body can mobilize fat from anywhere and bring it to the heart to provide the energy. The energy, as I told you, is the ATP molecule, which is the currency. And it can be produced from proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. So the body takes a different route when it comes to the heart function. That's why heart never starves from the time you're born until the last heartbeat. It keeps on beating. Loop, doop, loop, doop, loop, doop. Well, I'm a heart doctor, so I had to plug that in. Anyway, so let's get back to the concept of how can we burn more body fat. There are only 2 simple steps, ladies and gentlemen. One is reduce your intake of fat. When I say reduce your intake of fat, I'm morely talking about reduce your intake of carbohydrates, because that's the one that we pig out or eat too much, and by cutting that, we are reducing the amount of carbohydrate transformation into fat. But that's not enough. Because if you are 250 pounds and if you reduce your calorie intake to 1200 calories, you're not going to burn fat as fast as you want, because there is no stimulus in the body to use the body fat to create energy. In order to move the body fat to provide the energy, we need to do moderate intensity, long sustained exercises. Even just walking for 2 hours is far better than sitting on your couch and munching on a whole packet of chips. I'm talking about 8 to 12 ounces packet of chips. So you get the message. So that's not going to help you. But if you just and especially if you do it after you have had a prolonged fast, when your glycogen levels are low, and you just keep slow walking for an hour, and all of a sudden you realize that you are going to lose weight. So this is the most important part of this presentation, and that is to understand the physiology of human body. When you reduce carbohydrates and fat intake, you are cutting the additional intake of fat and carbohydrates. But in order to mobilize all this fat in the belly, we need to get involved in an endurance exercise. Long periods of exercise, sustained exercise especially when you are hungry, and that will help to release lipoprotein lipase. It also releases endorphins, which gives you a natural high, and that will help you to continue to burn fat long after you stop your exercise. Okay, here's what I did in order to lose almost 16, 17 pounds. I totally cut down my carbohydrates by 50, 75%. So there was no intake of excess carbohydrate which can be converted into fat, and even I cut down the fat. So I replaced my carbohydrates with various types of salads. You can see here, I got a whole, this is all gourmet dinner, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't compromise for cheap food. I mean, I have like turkey burger, homemade, salmon, grilled chicken, turkey meatballs, regular salad, and any kind of meat. You can grill that, and you can get a salad like a Caesar salad, 2 servings for like $3 in a grocery store. You just take the salad, you add your meat, and get a glass of wine and just enjoy. You have to enjoy your life. That is the most important thing. A lot of joggers I see, they look so skinny. They look so, man, you got to be presentable. I mean, you got to have a smile. You got to have more optimism than what you see in their faces. Always make sure you have an empty plate, because when you're hungry and you're eating salad, it's not going to fill up, but you need to be satisfied with what you're doing, because the end point is more important than pigging out on carb diet. In conclusion, the bottom line is, first, reduce your calorie intake from 2600 calories to 12 to 1300 calories. That's what I did, because this is what I learned in medicine. You need to have 12 to 1300 calories to prevent the body from breaking down proteins for energy source. So if you can cut the calorie down, so you're already reducing your carbohydrates. That's one aspect. The second and the most important aspect is to have sustained exercise, which will help you to mobilize the body fat by producing more lipoprotein lipase, which breaks down the fat and say, okay, go supply the energy. This leg is moving. Oh, that arm is moving. Go get the energy there. I need you to move. Keep moving. Keep moving. And eventually, period of weeks, you will see your body weight will come down. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick overview of the physiology of human body, composition, calories, contents, and what it takes to lose your body fat faster and more safely. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, and I will see you in the next video.